this is an iHeart podcast.
Well, welcome, everybody. Thursday edition of Clay and Buck kicks off right now. And let's just jump to it. We got in the Oval Office President Trump with the premier of Turkey. He is sitting down. They are talking. He is taking questions. Let's jump to it. Play it.
Great friendship, President Trump, with a few news items.
Sorry. Well, he said that the right is a lot tougher than the left. That's true for sure. We'll give you some of the top sound bites and some of the most important things from all of this here coming up shortly. We've also got some news on the economy. James Comey in the headlines once again because of the possibility of charges against Comey before that 5-year clock runs out on the statute of limitations. We've got more updates also on the ICE facility, that fatal shooting that happened yesterday. We'll discuss that. Hillary Clinton is weighing in on things, a whole range of things right now, which we will share with you so we can pull apart her preposterous arguments. And we've also got Washington Post yesterday reporting that marked classified material was found in the home of former Trump National Security Advisor Bolton. He's also formerly a Fox News contributor. So a lot of you have seen him on Fox. He's the guy with the mustache you'd seen over many years. That's not good. If that is accurate, if that reporting, I should say, is accurate, that's going to be a very tough one to explain to anyone. And he's not a former president. There's no basis for him to have declassified anything. So we can talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to note, I love when we can take a moment for just some positive news. And here is CNBC's Rick Santelli saying, look, second quarter GDP, even a little better than anticipated. Play clip one.
Now, on the GDP side, this is our third time around the block on Q2, and we see a really solid revision, 3.8%. I'm a bit shocked, to be honest. Usually the revisions as you get to second and third become smaller and smaller. So 3.8% would be the best quarter going back to, and we have to go back a ways here, to 4.4, and that was the third quarter of 23. Now, it is important to point out that if you look at the first quarter final, down 0.5%, there's a balance there. But the balance is moving in favor, and momentum is moving in favor for better growth.
Clay, looking pretty good still on the economy, and Trump not getting much credit for it from the media for obvious reasons. But if somebody had told me at the start of his presidency, this is where the numbers would be, and this is how the markets and also how rates and inflation and everything would look at this point, it's pretty darn good. I think the president should be happy, certainly, with the progress so far we've seen in year one.
No doubt. And we've got record, basically high stock prices. You've got overall inflation continuing to come down. The much maligned impact of tariffs seem to be non-existent. All of the experts are now, Buck, as you watch, coming out and saying, hey, well, we haven't seen the pricing impact that we thought from the tariff situation. The overall interest rates are coming down. Jerome Powell is behind on being able to do that, but we just got the quarter point decline. There's a forecast of a couple of more declines on interest rates and then going into next year. So I would suspect that you're going to see 15 and 30-year mortgages continue to come down, which is going to help to free up. I think we were talking about this off air, the degree to which the housing market has been just frozen to a large extent because, look, if you were fortunate enough to get one of those 2.5% or 3% mortgages, you don't want to move. And if you were unfortunate enough to buy and have a 7% mortgage, I'm telling you, you're going to start to see a lot of movement as those mortgage rates get down to 4.5%, 5%. And there starts to be less of a major difference in potentially moving, selling homes. I think when the housing market just kind of gets unlocked and it starts to move freely as a more liquid asset class, I think you're going to see a lot of rapid growth. But 3.8% growth is amazing. Look, there's two ways to balance the budget. One is to essentially cut spending in a massive way. That's what Doge was trying to do. I'm just going to tell you, There is no political will to massively cut spending. Democrats aren't going to do it. Republicans aren't going to do it. And this is where I think Elon Musk is correct. So how do you get about balancing the budget? You have to grow the economy. And you have to grow the revenue that the growing economy is going to produce. I think that's where Elon now is saying, hey, AI is going to potentially be so transformative in what it provides to the overall economy that we're just going to have to grow our way to get past the ballooning national deficits, because people like things. And when you give them things, they do not want to give them up.
Santa Claus is very tough to compete with. Getting free goodies that you don't have to pay for over and over again. And people get it's funny too, because everyone wants to cut. It's like everyone's a hero when it comes to the budget until you actually talk about what has to be cut from the budget. And then we have some big problem. All right. So this is what I wanted to play before. I just wanted to know this was just said by President Trump. Now, just to set this up, Clay. So we've had the Charlie Kirk assassination, which we are all still dealing with the trauma and the heartbreak of that. Honestly, also the processing of how many lunatics there are out there who were celebrating such a horrific event that's also in a way its own trauma, I think, as an American, and much lesser than seeing what happened with Charlie. But for a lot of people, it's brought it home to them as well, that there could be anybody they know in their life, or so that would celebrate such a horrific thing. There's that. There's now we'll have more details on this to share with everybody. More reporting on it, but the guy who killed 2 migrants at the ICE facility. So this guy is anti-ICE, but he killed 2 migrants being processed in an ICE facility because he just opened fire. So it's horrible no matter what, but also you just add this person is such a gross and evil individual that he killed. He's upset about what's happening to migrants, so he killed 2 of them. It's clearly
the FBI has released a couple of more data points on that guy. We try to avoid naming these guys, so I'm not going to do that. But he downloaded the list of DHS facilities. This is according to Libs of TikTok. Repeated searches on the Charlie Kirk shooting, tracked ICE agent movements through apps, and had a handwritten note saying, quote, hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror. So anyone out there who is trying to argue that this is anything other than yet another left-wing shooter motivated by left-wing political arguments is being dishonest to you. And again, that is the absolute latest in terms of the FBI investigation that they have reported.
So this is cut 27. Trump spoke about, cut 26, 28. Trump spoke about this left-wing violence. Play it.
Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem, not the right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And I'll give you a little clue. The right is a lot tougher than the left. But the right's not doing this. They're not doing it, and they better not get them energized, because it won't be good for the left. And I don't want to see that happen either. I'm the president of all the people. But the radical left is causing this. The radical left Democrats are causing this problem, and it gets worse. It gets worse, and it'll be a point where other people won't take it anymore, and that will not be good for the radical left, and we don't want that.
Clay, I just appreciate that the president is saying it in the most plain-spoken, straightforward, no nonsense way possible. He's like, the left is the problem, guys. The left are the ones doing the violence. I just also wish that we all could say, or we could just be reminded that Davy Crockett, fantastic American icon, Crockett coffee, a delicious coffee. When he's saying Crockett, he's referring to Congresswoman Crockett, yes, who is causing some brand problems sometimes. But yes, the left is the problem. The left is where the violence is.
Another left-wing violent incident that has been getting some attention this morning, Buck, that ties into what the president was just saying. This is a Fox News alert. A man's been arrested, charged after allegedly making social media threats against a Charlie Kirk vigil at the University of Texas, San Antonio. This man allegedly suggested on social media he planned to use his truck to drive through and disrupt the Charlie Kirk vigil. I mean, this is everywhere, and it's happening in every state. And again, the gunman who opened fire yesterday at the Dallas ICE facility has a left written record that he wanted to provide real terror for ICE agents, and that he, again, I mean, this
Clay,
is just not.
We didn't even mention this either because there's so much of this stuff. A guy shot up an ABC
we haven't talked
news
about that
affiliate.
Much. Yeah, in Sacramento.
And he was upset about Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air, so he shot up an ABC News affiliate. Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air, I might add. And you're like, these people are such maniacs that they're going to shoot at innocent people because some millionaire jerk was taken off the air for a couple of days, like he got a free vacation out of it. How much more of this? You stack these things up. How much more of this has to happen that's all clearly politically aligned with Democrats, with the left, with the commies, before there's no argument, there's no debate anymore. You know, I saw Megyn Kelly, Clay, was at what was it, Virginia Tech, I think it was, speaking, you know, as part of Turning Point now, reaching out and having people go to campuses to continue Charlie's work. And some kid did the violence comes from the right. The violence comes from the right. People are delusional. They're being fed lies by the Democrat media and by the Democrat, think tanks and everything else in the Democrat Party. And what they're being told is just absurd. I mean, how can you make this claim with a straight face? Where is this right-wing violence? Or we're going to have to hear about J6 again? Is that's the big, terrible thing? That's the worse than 9/11? Remember, they used to say that. They used to say J6 is worse than 9/11. Yeah.
Worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor, the worst thing that's happened in the country since the Civil War. That's legitimately what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris argued about January 6th. I mean, that was their direct talking point. Worst thing that's happened in the country since the Civil War.
I'm worried, Clay, that people are going to recognize more and more that even if Democrats wanted to put this genie back in the bottle, so to speak, even if they wanted to close up Pandora's box with all the lies they have told about the fascist Republicans who are destroying democracy and all this stuff, I don't even think that they could do this. I don't think they could turn it off now, is my point. I think they have unleashed this long enough on the American people that we are going to have to continue to suffer through what are just waves of domestic terrorism. Plain and simple. By people who think, because the New York Times and CNN and Joe Biden and Kamala told them, they think they're fighting fascism. And by fascism, they mean Nazis. Like, no one's really going around like, Trump is just like Mussolini. It's Nazis. Yeah. And the reason they want to compare us to Nazis is so they feel justified in being violent against us. It's very straightforward. It's insane, but it's straightforward.
The reason they say that is so they have an excuse to kill us. Yeah. That's the simple truth. And the fact that they've done it for 10 years, by the way, I don't believe that any of the Democrat leadership actually believes that argument, right? Because if they did, when Donald Trump got hit in the ear and when another guy tried to kill him, they wouldn't have said, well, we condemn that violence, right? If you truly thought Trump was Hitler, you should be honest and say, well, I wish they hadn't missed. They never say that because they know it would play so poorly in the larger public. But with their deranged lunatic base, I don't know what percentage of them, but enough of them to kill Charlie Kirk and enough of them to kill at the Dallas ICE facility and enough of them to go to Brett Kavanaugh's house and enough of them to show up at the softball, baseball team practice and start firing away. There is a deranged lunatic fringe of the left that is acting on what they believe that is true coming from the Democrat base, their arguments. And Buck, they think they're heroes. You have to go into these misguided souls' brains and think about the way that they are motivating themselves. They're making it clear why they're doing what they're doing. They're writing it on the bullets. They think they are heroes for the actions that they are undertaking.
Well, look at Luigi, whatever his name is.
Yes.
And and how there are leftists who think he is a hero. He has fans, everybody. This guy murdered an American father, husband. It's a guy who's doing his job. You can say you don't like healthcare companies all you want. You shouldn't murder somebody because they work at a healthcare company or they run a healthcare company. A lot of leftists think that was great, and they say it online. They're insane. You don't see this on the right. It's not to us. So Trump is correct. Hammer this point. It is not a both sides thing. The problem is on the left. The problem is with the Democrats, and we have to face up to that as a country. All right, look, Pure Talk is fantastic because they support this program and have as a sponsor from day one. And they encourage us to speak our truth, to speak openly and honestly and expressing opinions. And we thank them for sponsoring a forum like this one that welcomes viewpoints of the listeners here and a honest and fair exchange of ideas. Pure Talk's all about free speech. And they also happen to be our cell phone service provider, and they should be yours too, because they allow programs like this one to exist with their support. And also they've got the best customer service and the best prices out there. So if you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, we encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network. And with plans starting from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting small business. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with companies like Pure Talk who stand with you and your values. Dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck to make the switch to Pure Talk. Right now, you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck to switch to Pure Talk today.
Making America great again isn't just one man. It's many. The Team 47 Podcast. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
People ask us all the time how we can save the next generation.
We've got our show, and the info is an antidote, but we also have a couple books coming out, Clay.
That's right, and you can pre-order both of them right now and be book nerds just like us.
You'll laugh, you'll nod, and you'll get smarter, too.
Mine's called Balls, How Trump, Young Men, and Sports Saved America.
And mine is Manufacturing Delusion, How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You.
Both are great reads. One might even say they would make fabulous gifts.
Indeed. So do us a solid and pre-order yours on Amazon today. All right, welcome back. Welcome back in here to Clay and Buck. And we were just talking a moment ago before we took a brief pause there to get into the Comey situation. Now, let's be clear. Nothing has happened yet. There's a lot of discussion, though, a lot of reporting that is indicating that someone thinks high up the chain there will be charges brought against James Comey, the former FBI director, for lying under oath. And this may or may not happen, but there has certainly been a lot of chatter about it, and there's a lot of reporting suggesting that it is likely to happen. And so, Clay, I thought that we should remind everybody, because I really always want to make sure that anytime someone has the possibility of their freedom being taken away, even for a day, never mind for months or even years, I always want to make sure that the person is guilty of the crime and that it is a reasonable punishment for the crime that they have committed. You know, because if we start getting into third world banana republic stuff of people, oh, you mean like what they did to Trump? Trust me, I know. We can't allow this country to go down that pathway. Avoiding that does require consequences for those who have been involved in trying to do that. And if you broke the law trying to use the law as a weapon against people in politics, law is the law, right? That's where we're all supposed to be on this. That's the only, without that, we have nothing, right? Without that, everything just starts to become, pure power stuff. And Clay, this is a throwback flashback, December of 2018. In New York City, James Comey talking to Nicole Wallace. I want everyone to hear this exchange before to be reminded of who this guy James Comey really is, because I think this encapsulates it really well. Play 3.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. The protocol, two men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
Clay.
And so we placed a call to Flynn, said, hey, we're sending a couple guys over. Hope you'll talk to them. He said, sure. Nobody else was there. They interviewed him in a conference room at the White House Situation Room, and he lied to them. And that's what he's now pled guilty to.
What did he think they were coming over there for?
I don't think he knew. No, we didn't tell him. Just said, we've got sending over a couple of agents. I want to ask you some questions. I didn't have this conversation. My deputy director did. But hope you got a few minutes. You can sit down and talk to them. And he said, sure.
I just want to say this, Clay, before we get into some of the specifics. If Comey broke the law, he should face the full consequences of the law. He's a scumbag, and I hope he spends years in prison if he broke the law. And there are people who seem to think that he did. Did you hear? I mean, when you listen to what this guy did to General Flynn, they used the Logan Act as a pretext to send FBI agents to the incoming National Security Advisor's office to just have a conversation. He thought they were probably just, welcoming him to the new administration. And then they claim, with no proof other than their word against his, that he lied about non-illegal activity that he was completely justified in doing. And they only did this because they unmasked phone calls abusing FISA in the process.
This is also where the statute of limitations play in. And I know we've talked about this statute of limitations issue on a lot of these cases. And I know people roll their eyes and they try to say, well, it's an ongoing conspiracy and all these things. The Comey charges, based on my reading, statute of limitations related, Buck, must happen almost immediately. In other words, they're going to be able to argue, hey, that statute of limitations has told, we are no longer able to be charged under these auspices. And given that we know many federal district court judges, the people who will likely be assigned these cases, are not going to be favorably disposed to the Trump administration, you got to have everything lined up when you bring these charges, and you've got to get it done well. And we haven't even talked about this, Buck, but I think we probably should have. There are tons, I think it's like 7 or 8 different individuals that the D.C. grand jury has refused to indict for blatant crimes during the Trump crime surge to try to bring down crime in D.C. The grand jury has just said, for instance, the guy who threw the sandwich at the cop, it's on video, it's blatant, he did it. They've just said, yeah, we're not indicting for this. So the politics of D.C. when it comes to getting people indicted, even when you have evidence on video of crimes being committed, some of the grand jury members are just like, nah, I kind of agree with what they did. I'm not going to agree to charges here being even allowed.
Absolutely. It's very political, but I wanted everyone to hear what a sanctimonious scumbag Comey is. I used to call him Sancticomey, Clay, back in the day. He's a bad dude. He's always been a bad dude. He's slithered from one administration to another within the bureaucracy and somehow always ended up, elevating himself. And he's the guy who, over the objections of fellow prosecutors, wanted Martha Stewart to go to prison just because he wanted to make a name for himself. Martha Stewart, worth reminding everybody, served time in prison. Okay. The lady who's like, here's how to make the most delicious summer salad. And, you all know Martha Stewart went to prison because she got jammed up with an investigation of her talking to her broker, and they say that she lied about the conversation with the broker. It wasn't even illegal. It wasn't insider trading.
Didn't she only make like $200K? I mean, I'm not trying to minimize.
I think it was like Clay. I think it was like 30 or 40K. The trade. I think it was a small trade. It was small. She's a billionaire, and a billionaire back when there were far fewer of them. She's a billionaire. There's like 30 or 40 grand, and Comey was on a quest. Send her to, and everybody was like, this guy's kind of a weirdo. Like, this has come out. Rudy Giuliani told me this personally at the time. He was like, yeah, when Comey was going after Martha Stewart, we were all like, what is this guy doing? But I wanted to point out what he did to General Flynn. This is a guy who served in the military for 30 years, was DIA director, and was going to be the national security advisor. And Comey just wanted to take him out. Comey the FBI director set a perjury trap for the incoming national security advisor based on a non-crime. Let me tell you, if someone starts interrogating you, and you don't think you're being interrogated, and you think
get a lawyer. That's right.
Well,
yes,
yeah, of course, Clay,
that was so diabolical. Was that he didn't even really realize what was going on.
I mean, this would be like, imagine two FBI guys were talking about a case, and one of them's like, you know what? I think you lied to me. I'm going to bring charges against you now. It's like, wait, we're on the same team. What are you talking about? That was what this was like. This was. We're the executive branch FBI employees coming to talk to the national security advisor in the White House for the explicit purpose, the clear purpose of taking, and Comey thought it was funny. Comey thought it was, I mean, look, you hear, they're all laughing. It's so great. They took out General Flynn. Took out General Flynn for what? Speaking to his counterpart, or in a sense, the ambassador to Russia, saying, look, we're coming in, let's talk this out. We come in. He didn't do anything illegal. The Logan Act, Clay? The Logan Act has been not successfully prosecuted to completion once in 200 years.
Yeah.
And that's what he pulls out, and that's because the Logan Act could apply to basically anything. I'm going to Taiwan tomorrow. Am I running my own foreign policy? I mean, this is absurd, right? But if I am, then tens of thousands of people in D.C. are. So I wanted everyone to be reminded that Comey's a bad guy, and Trump isn't exaggerating when he says this is a bad individual who is a narcissistic freak and wanted to really harm people and abuse his power to do so. And so if he lied under oath, he loves sending other people to prison for lying under oath about the most minute things. If he lied under oath, his ass should go to jail too. Full stop.
And those charges need to come soon, or else you're going to run into statute of limitations related issues. We'll get into some of this. We'll take some of your talkbacks. Buck, get your pen. I got a winner for you tonight on Thursday Night Football. We have won 2 of the last 3 weeks. We've got a game going on tonight between the Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals, Thursday Night Football. If you go to prizepicks.com, you go download the Prize Picks app, use my name, Clay, you get $50 when you play $5. This one pays out at 2.5 to 1. So if you put in $10, you'd get back $25. You put in $100, you get back $250. I feel good about this one. We've won 2 of the last 3 weeks. First of all, we've got a guaranteed winner square. Jalen Hurts is going to throw for more than 1/2 of a passing yard. So they're basically giving you one winner. All right. Here are the 2 more. Kyler Murray, Arizona quarterback, tonight is going to throw more than 1/2 passing touchdowns. That means he needs to have 1 passing touchdown. Passing. Sam Darnold, more than 1/2 passing touchdown as well. If I am correct, and I think I'm going to be correct, all 3 of these hit, it pays out at 2.5 to 1. So if Kyler Murray throws a touchdown pass tonight, and if Sam Darnold throws a touchdown pass tonight, and we take our free square with Jalen Hurts, we're going to win tonight. PrizePicks.com. Code Clay. You can download the app. You can play in California, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, where I am, 40+ states. Congrats, like I said yesterday. Prize Picks is killing it. Company just sold for over $4 billion. They have just been dominating. You're going to have fun with them. Great American success story. PrizePicks.com, code Clay. $5 turns into $50 automatically when you play your first $5. That is prizepicks.com, code Clay.
Sometimes all you can do is laugh, and they do a lot of it with the Sunday Hang. Join Clay and Buck as they laugh it up in the Clay and Buck podcast feed on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back into Clay and Buck. We're joined now by Dr. Oz. Dr. Mehmet Oz serves as the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services under HHS Secretary RFK Jr. and President Trump. Dr. Oz, welcome to the show as always. Good to talk to you.
Good talk as always. It's been an active week. I suspect you'll want to speak a bit about autism and what might work.
Yeah, let's talk about autism and the Tylenol situation here, Doc. What do we know? What is being recommended? What is actually going on? And let's just stay as tight to the facts as we can on this one, because there's a lot of passion around this topic.
There is. Let's take a step back for 1 second and just make it really clear. There is no political benefit to President Trump talking about this. This is a whole-scale departure from what historically has happened with data within government, which is we have sort of an opaque process. You don't really know what we know. Eventually, we figure it all out and tell you the best we can. We saw that in COVID. It backfires when moms think that they're gaslighting. They're being gaslit because they're not getting access to data. So the president charged all of us, Secretary Kennedy leading the process, with just breaking all the silos, breaking the barriers, just do the work and release the information when you have it. This is the first example. There'll be future ones. So let's go over the data. $50 million is put into a process to try to research autism. Jay Bhattacharya at the NIH has been allocating that money in grants along the way, studying what's going on with autism, and discovered two signals, two leads that were intriguing enough that after a lot of discussion, it was decided to share with the American people. The first had to do with a prescription medication called leucovorin, which no one's ever heard of, but prescription leucovorin is essentially a way of getting B vitamins into the brains of children. Why is that a problem? We believe that there's a fair amount of pathology around B vitamins in the brains of kids who have autism. That's one of the reasons their brains get cloudy, foggy. They can't really process information. They don't learn to speak right. And so if we can reverse that problem, which is caused by their genes in some cases that we know of, and by antibodies blocking those receptors, those pathways into the brain in others, that would make a difference. It turns out with a couple of hundred kids in different small studies, that about half the kids seem to benefit when given this medication correctly. It's not perfect. We don't know enough about it to make broader promises, but I asked the key question. Clay and Buck, both of you just tell me that if this resonates with you. I asked the question everyone should ask their doctor. Would you do it for your kid? And the answer I got over and over again was yes. We don't know for sure, but because it's so safe and this drug's been around forever, we think it will be worth it. So we released that information. At the same time, there was data that's been around for a couple of years, but more and more of it coming out about potential concerns around acetaminophen, which is the raw material in Tylenol. Now, I want to say this as crisply and clearly, sticking to the facts as you asked me to. If you have a high fever, if you've got a bad problem, please talk to your docs. If you're pregnant, make sure that they're involved and take the acetaminophen, which is pretty much the only drug we would use in that setting. And it's the drug that most doctors use, myself included, in that setting, because all the other drugs seem to have bigger problems, and having high fevers itself causes a problem. So this is not a warning never to take the drug. However, in cases where there was a lot of use of this drug, there does seem to be a signal, concerning enough that we were sharing it, that women subsequently have babies who develop autism. So the message really is, if you have a low-grade temperature, if you stub your toe, don't use the medication willy-nilly. Use it thoughtfully, recognizing that any medication that's strong enough to help you is strong enough to hurt you.
Dr. Oz, you have kids. Buck has a baby. I've got 3. I want to run through a couple of things because I know we got a lot of moms and a lot of grandmas out there, and everybody, when they get pregnant, by and large, is trying to do the best possible things they can for the baby that they are carrying. And there's a couple of things out there that I was going to point out, and how complicated and sometimes even to the detriment all of these strictures can be. In America, they say women shouldn't eat sushi, pregnant women. They say that women should not have alcohol at all. As I'm sure you're aware, in Japan, women continue to eat sushi throughout pregnancy, no issues. In France, women continue to drink glasses of wine. I mean, they're not pounding bottles of wine and getting super drunk. By and large, kids aren't having issues there. Circling back, I read in the New York Times today, you may have more accurate data than this, that now I believe it's 1 in every 31 kids is being classified as autistic. Those numbers have skyrocketed. Something is going on, right? Either we're identifying autism way more, and maybe that's partly it. Maybe there are multiple different factors out there. You're a doctor, though, and I just like to go baseline. What would you tell a woman who just found out she's pregnant right now that is concerned about autism that she should do, in your opinion, to be the absolute healthiest? And obviously one answer is she can talk to her doctor, but if this were your daughter and you were about to have a grandbaby, what would you tell her?
The most important thing you can do when you're pregnant is actually to be calm and realistic about the numbers. You will almost certainly do well. Mortality rates obviously are very low because we're so good generally at taking care of crises or complications when they occur. And anxiety itself is a problem during pregnancy. So recognize that you're in pretty good shape and you're lucky to be born in an era where we have high quality care. That stated, there are some unforced errors, rookie errors you want to avoid. Trusting that there's one product that's so safe that you can take it whenever you think you might have a small little thing not right is unwise, because we just don't know. There's so many things happening during pregnancy with that miraculous process where these cells are growing at a fast rate, differentiating into organs. Everything's got to work. It's sort of a miracle that it ever works, but it almost always does work because we get out of the way. So I say the same thing to my kids I've got 5 grandkids now, 1 more coming. Okay, just get out of the way of biology and let it run itself. A low-grade temperature is a healthy thing usually because it'll kill the virus that's bothering you, but it doesn't hurt your own cells. Don't trust external substances of any kind. I don't think alcohol is a good thing to do when you're pregnant. And you shouldn't have to drink alcohol to be able to get through your day. So, yes, if you're going to toast someone, that's different, but it should not be part of the norm. If the cleaner you eat, the better. Do not trust the environment to be clean. Go out of your way. Air purifiers, water purifiers are wise moves. It's a time for you to be so careful because you're the canary in the coal mine. Anything that's not right in society, in the world around us, would have a increased detrimental effect on you and your fetus. And let me take one step back up because you mentioned a stat. 1 in 31 kids now have autism. Just to put this in perspective, that is 5 times more than it was in 2000, 25 years ago. 5 times more. So it's not genetics. And I don't buy the canard that this is all about measurement. Because I just turned 65. I'm running the agency that I'm a member of now, Medicare, right? There aren't any people my age that I know of who have autism. Bobby Kennedy, Secretary Kennedy, is found, reminds all of us that he in his whole life never met anyone his age who has autism. I'm sure they're out there, but they're not very common. Whereas you go to school today, you take your kids to school, and you talk to the other parents, many of those parents have kids with autistic children. It changes their life. So the president's passion about this comes from a realization this is not genetic. This is not measurement. There is a change in our environment. He is undaunted. He will find it and pursue it. And these are 2 clues of how to deal with it.
Dr. Oz, I wanted to follow up on this. Is it and now I'm asking more for your analysis and maybe even a bit of your gut instinct on this, having practiced medicine for decades and now having access to the data on these things at a very high level on the policy side. When you're talking about that, we just established that really deeply troubling rise of autism. Do you think it is most likely to be a multi-factor problem that has caused the increase, as in several things, together or just several things in general? Or do you think that it might be a really one primary culprit that will be found? It's just a question of whittling down the data and pursuing the science and finally getting us to what's really at the heart of this crisis.
I believe it's multifactorial, but they may work through common mechanisms. For example, I brought up the reality that folate levels are low in the brain. Folate comes from foliage, leafy greens. So this vitamin B9 is a critical element in brain development. It's possible that several of the things we're worried about all work to inhibit the ability of the fragile child's brain to take up enough of this critical ingredient so their brain forms normally. It could happen because antibodies are made because the kid's allergic to everything from a food that they're being given to a substance in their body, to a toxin in their environment, mold and chemicals, all kinds of things. We don't know how they work in the body, but they probably work through several common pathways. What I do have confidence in, since I've been looking at this together with the rest of the team, and Jay Bhattacharya, Marty McCary, who head of the NIH and FDA, we're all laser focused on this, in part because the secretary insists it and the president demands it. We are seeing signals of lots of things. We didn't want to talk about all of them, but we're seeing things that all could be concerning. We just want to sort of whittle it down and get to the ones that are legitimately things we might be able to do differently in our lives. But certainly you want to start being transparent with the American people, because trust is built brick by brick by a shining light on all the things you know. If I know things you don't know, there's no reason why you would trust me to do more and better with it than you would. And this is why I think parents in particular who love their kids more than anybody should be armed with the best data the government has as we get it. And of course, yes, it scares people, it alarms people. Not everyone wants to hear it. Not everyone agrees ideologically. I get all that stuff. But if you mix politics and medicine, you know what you get? Politics. You kill medicine. And so the last thing we want to do is hold back because there's a political rationale, which is, again, if you're a apolitical person who's passionate about people, you tell them what you know. That's what a doctor does.
We're talking to Dr. Oz. You just hit on something. This will be a last question because I know you're busy and we've got to hit a break. But the autism rates have skyrocketed. You talked about how they've skyrocketed, not just historically, but in the 21st century in particular. It's also happened with allergies. I know there are a lot of parents out there. You mentioned, Dr. Oz, that you rarely see, and Bobby Kennedy has rarely seen people your age who have autism. Allergies. When I was a kid growing up, nobody was allergic to peanuts. It didn't feel like. Now the peanut allergy is so commonplace that they don't even give out peanuts on airplanes anymore. They've had to stop doing that. Is it possible that we're seeing some connection in the environment that is impacting things on a variety of different levels? Do you think there might be any connection between autism and allergies and just the way that the body chemistry is changing? And Buck and I have talked about this. This is a big question too. Is it partly maybe connected also to the idea of older parents, right? Dads and moms, frankly, are having babies way later in the 21st century than they did for basically the entirety of human existence.
Clay, such an excellent question. All the things you identify, because you're a curious person. And by the way, to me, the Maha movement is about being curious. And 80% of statements are questions in disguise. You're actually a curious human being. The questions you're asking are the ones that we have got to be brave enough to answer and share if we're courageous with people around us. But you got to be kind. So you mentioned age of the parent. Yes, that's a risk factor. We've known that. But it's hard to hear that if you're a parent. But yet, again, you got to be transparent. Doctors tell patients things they don't always want to hear, but at least you'll respect us for telling you the truth. The allergy issue, I think, is a bigger problem. There's a reason why so many kids are allergic. You're right. Peanut allergy is unheard of when I was a kid. We have an epidemic of all types of allergies, which again is reflective of the fact that we're traumatizing the fragile immune system of the child who's just trying to figure out what the world is about and differentiate what's friendly and what's foe. Their immune system is confused. I suspect there are chemicals that they're getting exposed to that are causing this. We are actively, of course, searching. There's many allegations. When you don't know the answer, it's easy to blame folks. We don't have the luxury of bickering. When you're increasing by fivefold the incidence of a tragic condition that could be, it's obviously these kids are lovable, should be loved, we'll be taking care of it. As a society, we're judged by how we take care of our most vulnerable, so we'll always take care of kids on the autism spectrum. But it's a heck of a lot easier not to have to fight that battle when you're going through life, and these kids deserve better. We have got to deliver. And looking at the cause of allergies, I think, is one of the biggest clues, because they're the tip of the iceberg. You figure that out, that's the leading edge. Behind that are a whole bunch of other conditions, celiac disease, bowel problems, of course, all kinds of pathologies like autism spectrum, ADHD. You can go down the laundry list of issues that plague our youth, and many of them come back to an immune system that can't function correctly. It's a fragile system. It's being maligned. We've got to figure out what's doing it.
Dr. Oz, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us. Always happy to have you on. Just let us know when you think it makes sense, and good work and good luck trying to figure all this out.
God bless you both. Take care.
That's Dr. Oz, much less serious. Although, Buck, I do think, and we'll talk about this some more during the course of the program, this is something that motivates a huge majority, I think, of our listeners out there. There's a sense that we are making choices not only on our own self, but on behalf of our kids that are actually creating worse outcomes. And I think that allergy and autistic thing, whatever you think, obviously they have skyrocketed. And we'll talk about some of that. Why is that happening? In the meantime, I want to tell you about our friends that are over in Israel that are fighting so many difficult battles every single day. It's been another very trying week in Israel. Renewed drone attacks on innocent civilians. The attacks don't get the headlines they once did, but a lot's happened since October 7th. Hostages still being held, and we've got a movement of support for the people of Israel coming. It's called Flags of Fellowship. It's organized by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. On Sunday, October 5th, millions of people across America will plant an Israeli flag in honor and solidarity with the victims of the terror attack of October 7th when 1,200 innocent Israelis were killed. You can be a part of the movement, too. To get more information about how you can join the Flags of Fellowship, visit the fellowship online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
You ain't imagining it. The world has gone insane. Reclaim your sanity with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, third hour, Clay and Buck kicks off now. Our friend Ryan Gerdusky joins us. He is the host on the Clay and Buck podcast network of It's a Numbers Game. He does the deep dive, nerdiness, numbers analysis that you need to know to understand the politics of this country right now. Our friend Ryan Gerdusky is with us. Mr. Gerdusky, thanks for making the time. Let's start with some of these numbers. I'm seeing some interesting stuff out of New Jersey. Now, you're a Northeast guy like me. The idea of Republicans even being competitive in New Jersey seems like it's too good to be true. What are the numbers telling us about this? And Clay's, one of his favorite candidates is Chitterelli. So how's this all looking?
I've got us on FCC watch because I can't pronounce his name correctly, Ryan. So just be aware.
So let's go over some background information to begin with. Democrats start off with an 860,000 voter advantage in the Garden State. Now, you may say, Ryan, that's a lot of voters. Yes, but it is down significantly from November 2021, the last time Jack Chitterelli ran for governor. Republicans in the last 4 years since the last governor's election have gained 162,000 new voters, while Democrats have lost 47,000 voters in an election that Chitterelli lost by only 84,000 votes. If you look at the polls, first off of the polls, there were 7 polls recently. Overall, Mickey Sherrill, the Democratic nominee, has led in 5 of them, averaging a lead of 5.5 points. But the last 2 polls by accredited pollsters that have come out said that Chitterelli is either tied or winning. A national research poll, which was funded by his campaign, so it's an internal campaign number, has him leading by a point and is up by 21 points. Normally, internal polling, obviously, they slant things towards their candidate. But Emerson, which has been on a roller coaster streak of good polling lately, they came out with a poll just today finding the race tied. And they also said that Chitterelli is leading by 26 points among independents. So there's consistency there. It's not all good news because the group of undecided voters overwhelmingly lean Democrat, a lot of minorities, a lot of women. The problem for Mickey Sherrill is this. Minority voters in urban New Jersey do not like her. They voted overwhelmingly against her in the and in the primary. She comes from a small town where the median income is well over $150,000 a year. And she had a disastrous interview on The Breakfast Club where she couldn't describe how she made $7 million in profit selling stocks, which she was fined for because she was selling while she was on the House appropriations for military contracts. That has been a huge, huge problem. Democrats are freaked out. They've spent an additional $1.5 million on this race, $25 million in total. Internals are showing that she is not in a strong place, and that's where they're putting all their hands on deck.
Okay. How do we, so a couple of things, Ryan, and I know some of you from New Jersey are going to know this, but I actually think it got snowed under. Trump lost New Jersey by about 5 points. He lost Virginia by about 5 points. That's where both of the governor's races that are going to be happening in about 6 weeks are taking place. Ryan, the Trump team believes that if they had had Kamala Harris money, that is, they could have just sprayed money everywhere like Kamala did, that they could have won in Virginia, they could have won in New Jersey. Do you buy it? And do we know if the current candidates in New Jersey and Virginia, are they competitive enough with dollars to spend coming down the stretch run here, as a lot of people that are not political obsessives become aware these governors' races are going on?
Well, it's great you mentioned Trump. So there's an inverse problem happening between New Jersey and Virginia. In Virginia, Winsome Sears, the Republican nominee, is trying to nationalize this election. She is making this specifically about trans girls playing biological female sports. It is her number one issue. She is talking about it consistently and is what her ads are focusing on. Inversely, in New Jersey, the Democrat, Mickey Sherrill, is making this entire election about Trump. Just today, there was a news-breaking story a little while ago that she was not allowed to walk in the U.S. Naval Academy commencement speech because she cheated 130 times in her class. That was, sorry, it implicit 130 people. She cheated and she could not walk in her graduation.
Hold on, let me rephrase that, Ryan, because I think it was a little bit. I think she was part of a group of 130 people
Correct.
that was accused of cheating on tests that were not allowed to walk. Not she cheated 130 times. I mean, I think the Naval Academy would probably say, hey, I don't know what the number is, but I think you get kicked out for that.
My apologies. I screwed up. Yes, that is true. She was with 130 people. So she has made this election about Trump. She blamed Jack Ciattarelli for this story coming out, saying he's part of the Trump cabal to release information. Jack Ciattarelli is focused specifically on affordability and electricity costs. Electricity costs are the number one issue in both Virginia and New Jersey's election, incidentally enough. And electricity costs are skyrocketing in both places. The difference between New Jersey and Virginia is the elasticity of the electorate. So Virginia's electorate, because it is much blacker, and blacks in America have a lower level of, they move far less than Hispanics or whites do. There's less elasticity for the Republicans to make big gains. The question is, do they show up at all? There's also a lot of, quote unquote awfuls, which is like angry white female liberals. There's a lot more in Virginia, and there's a lot of people angry over the Elon cuts to federal jobs. New Jersey doesn't have that problem, and Ciattarelli has been more centralized on the affordability question and on the tax question. Sherrill had an absolutely abominable debate performance where she would not commit to not raising taxes on the middle class, and she would not explain once again how she made $7 million on a stock trade. Those clips went viral. It's been very, very bad. Everything that is breaking in someone's favor is Ciattarelli. Ciattarelli's campaign in the last 45 days have reminded me more of Glenn Youngkin's than Winsome Sears. Winsome Sears is really just trying to get the Trump base out, and she's had a mixed record on having that ability.
Can you break down for us a little bit, Ryan? I thought that was really interesting, and I'd seen some headlines around this. The skyrocketing electricity price, as that's generally not something you think of as a top election issue at the state level, but that is in two different states in these two critical governors' races. I think it's very interesting. Part of it, as I understand it, is data center usage and essentially places getting ready for AI or wanting to be more part of the AI race and also to store all this data online. Part of it is natural gas prices. So there's a few things coming into it. But how are the various campaigns handling this? Because I always think it's so funny. The Democrats, their only idea for how to make electricity prices less expensive involve finding more expensive forms of electricity like solar. I mean, I don't know what they think they're going to do. So how's that playing out?
Right. So it is the number one issue in both New Jersey and Virginia, and data centers are the main culprit. Data centers take about 25% of Virginia's electricity. 1 in 4, they've added about 20 million homes using power through data centers. In New Jersey, data centers are responsible for 70% of the increased prices in electricity. Jack Ciattarelli is talking about having tax cuts for the middle class and about trying to have more not alternative in the form of solar, but really looking at increasing natural gas subsidies or anything he can to sit there and try to get prices lower through using taxes in the state. Abigail Spanberger over in Virginia, she's actually the only candidate running statewide who has pointed to data centers and saying we need to figure out how to deal with this increase in the cost of electricity through data centers. And she's the one who's pointed the finger. Winston Sears really hasn't spoke about data centers or electricity prices nearly as much, focusing much more on national issues to try to really drive out lower propensity voters. And I have a number on that. Virginia does not have party registration like New Jersey does. So you're not a registered Republican or registered Democrat. But among modeling companies that model whether you're likely to be a Republican or a Democrat, Republicans have done a much better job at turning out people who have either never voted and are likely Republicans or only voted once in the last 4 elections than Democrats have. So if that's her game plan by bringing out low propensity voters, it's showing a little bit of traction. But Democrats outside of Richmond and in the northern part of the state and the Nova outside of D.C. are really turning out like gangbusters, especially in the Richmond suburbs.
Let's go to the New York City mayor's race, because a lot of our WOR listeners are plugged in on this, Ryan. We still haven't gotten any movement from anyone to drop out, whether it's Eric Adams, Curtis Lewa, Andrew Cuomo. And as I'm looking right now at Polymarket, they have an 87% chance that Mamdani is elected mayor. Is there any reason right now in your mind to expect any kind of movement there, or have you kind of resigned yourself to Mamdani is going to be the next New York City mayor?
Mamdani's going to be the next city mayor unless Eric Adams and Curtis Lee would drop out. I mean, and we've had more polling out of New York City than either Virginia or New Jersey at this point. Pollsters love polling New York. It's an interesting race. The problem is in this fractured field, it needs to be a head-on-head competition, and all pollsters agree a head-to-head competition between Cuomo and Mamdani shows a competitive race, and we don't know who would win. But Cuomo has run one of the most god-awful campaigns I could imagine. He's made no concessions to Republicans to try to win them over whatsoever. And Eric Adams is still hanging around at 7 or 8%, mostly among Jewish and black voters who would otherwise be voting for Cuomo. So it's really been some of the worst campaigning I've ever seen, especially from Cuomo. And Curtis Lee had essentially no campaign aside from going the same 5 places over and over and over again. He's polling somewhere in the low to mid-teens, and it's really kind of fizzled out. So,
okay. Do you buy, Buck and I have kind of debated this, that Mamdani could have an impact in the 2026 midterms if he is the face of the Democrat Party, or do you think he's really not that well known outside of New York City? What is his impact? Let's say he wins. Obviously, he's not a citizen. I mean, born American citizen. So he's not eligible to run, for instance, for president, thankfully, sadly, given how much support he has among Democrats. Does he have national resonance next year in your mind if he wins in New York City or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why Fox News is the only one who covers his speeches live. And they don't do it for any New York City politician. I mean, the Republicans desperately want to make him the face, which is why Hakeem Jeffries still won't endorse him, despite Kathy Hochul endorsing him. And it'll be a big question going into 2026 if they sit there and try to play spoiler. Mamdani made a comment saying, I'm not promising to re-endorse Kathy Hochul or any other Democrat. So they very much want to play. And I spoke to some Democratic consultants who are very, very smart. And the question, they said this, it is not a question of if, like an AOC or Mamdani type of person will be the Democratic nominee in 2028. It's a matter of when. It is just a matter of timing. All the movement is on the progressive side, and they are absolutely going to make Mamdani the face of it. And he is, he's charming to some people. He's charismatic to some people. He does have some political ability that I do notice, but his policies are absolutely insane, especially around policing, and especially in the Northeast, is going to be very problematic for Democrats.
So is it your view that he will be as insane as we are worried he will be if he becomes the mayor of New York? Like, will he actually do these policies, or is this just to get the sizzle going, but he'll have to deal with the reality of trying to govern 8.5 million people?
Well, he has limitations because the governor has a lot of control over New York City. So it's not like he's the president or the king of the city. There are certain things that he can do that I expect him to do on day one. He also has the problem the federal government is going to be breathing down his neck on certain issues. Like the idea that he's going to be able to kick ICE agents out of the city is just not realistic whatsoever. On certain things, he's going to be pretty horrific. On other things, he can't fulfill half of those promises because he doesn't have the ability or the wherewithal to do so. So, I mean, I think that he's going to be a worse mayor than Bill de Blasio, but I mean, that's what's happening right now in New York.
Go check out It's a Numbers Game. Comes out every week on the Clay and Buck Podcast Network. Ryan Gerdusky is the excellent host. Ryan, thanks for breaking it all down for us. Great stuff.
Thank you.
If you have a lot of memories stored on videotape, Super 8 film reels, or in print photos, you want to get them preserved digitally. The best way to do that safely is with our sponsor, Legacy Box, an American company based in Tennessee. Legacy Box digitally transfers all your old media over a dozen different formats into digital files that you can easily watch, share, and post whenever you want. This is an amazing gift, too. If someone you know has boxes of old tapes, give them the gift of opening a time capsule and get them digitized with Legacy Box. Imagine Thanksgiving with family gathered and surprising them with all those old memories long forgotten on VHS that's collecting dust. Legacy Box will not only bring those old memories to life, but also preserve them for future generations to come. Legacy Box has done this for 1.5 million families to date. Those families have relied on Legacy Box to carefully handle their saved photos, video, film, and more. And everything gets returned to you afterwards, along with those brand new digital files. It's a great process. Visit legacybox.com/buck today and unlock 50% off your order. That's legacybox.com/BUCK.
News and politics, but also a little comic relief. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.